Please join me in my sweaty apartment as I talk about the month of June and the month of July. Hello and welcome to Creatively Torn, a channel where I mostly talk about books and sometimes sweat my ass off. This is a monthly update for the months of June and July. It's a weird thing. I'm wrapping up June and looking into July, so that's what we're going to do today. My apartment is very hot because my air conditioner is not working, so I'm very sweaty and it's getting to my head, so this is going to be a fun video. But that being said, I'm going to wrap up my books that I read in June and talk about the books that I'm planning to read in July. We'll do a book of the month and some ratings, so let's get started. The first book that I finished in June was actually a holdover from May. That was Iron Gold by Pierce Brown, book 4 in the Red Rising saga. The first book in the sequel series, so it's quite a bit different than the first 3 books. Very differently structured book, more mature characters, a more methodical and political plot. And I really enjoyed this one. I gave it, I think, a 4.5 out of 5. I'm not sure if it's my favorite of the series yet. I need to really reassess that once I finish up the next couple, but I think it's up there. The next book that I did finish was Malice by John Gwynne. This is the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen quartet. This one I did not enjoy as much. I actually struggled a lot to get through this book. I've been kind of in a reading slump for the past month and a half. With just a few exceptions, I've really not liked much of what I read. And that continued here with Malice. I found the writing to be very painful to get through. Didn't really bond with any of the characters or really get into any of the in-world stuff that was going on. But I made it to the end, and I'm going to continue with the series, so hopefully this is the weak point of The Faithful and the Fallen for me. I ended up giving this one a 3 out of 5. Next up, I read a couple of different books on Kindle Unlimited. The first one was Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. I did a review of this book and the next book just last week, so if you want my full thoughts, go ahead and look at that. But suffice it to say, Nocticadia was something out of my comfort zone, but it was an okay book. It was a dark romance sort of thing that was recommended to me, but it was fine. I gave it a 3 out of 5 after waffling on a few different ratings. It was an okay story if you're looking for dark romance or dark academia / romance or erotica, maybe. Like I said, you can watch the full review to get a little more insight on that. Along with that, in that video is the next book, Satan's Affair by H.T. Carlton. This is a shorter book about a murderer lady at a carnival. This is a kind of a dark erotica thing. I ended up giving this one 2.5 out of 5. I explain more in the video. Next up, I read, what did I read? I read the Posthumous Memoirs of Brás Cubas by Machado de Assis. This is a classic Brazilian book. Very postmodern, very witty and engaging book. The narrator is someone who has died, and he's chronicling his life and just some different things. It was really a witty book, which I think I said. Very inventive. He has a lot of side comments and humor that are very meta. Now, that was all very fun. The story was fine too. It was nothing special to me. And honestly, I kind of struggled to get through this one as well. It was an easy read. The prose and the writing were very nice. but for some reason I just couldn't really get more than a couple pages at a time done with this one before I zoned out. But it was a good book. I do recommend it. It's not very long. It's less than 300 pages. I think I gave this one a 4 out of 5. And then next was another short story. This one was called The Har by David Sodergren. This is a kind of a cosmic horror or maybe a romance story. It's hard to explain. It's about a small town and an old lady who's about to get kicked out of her house and some stuff that happens, and I don't know. I don't really want to explain it because it's weird and it would spoil the book. Just in case you do want to read it. I didn't really like this book all that much. I found the writing to be very amateurish and I didn't really like where the story went. Felt like the second half dragged on for way too long. I was hoping for more horror. The bits we did get were pretty good, but I wanted more of that, less of the other stuff. The main character is an old lady, and I guess I just don't vibe with old lady main characters for some reason. I don't know. I ended up giving this one a 2.5 out of 5, I think. Not my thing, but if you're into modern horror, you might want to give it a try. Say hi to the camera, Sega. Okay. And then finally, the last book that I read in June, which I actually didn't finish until July, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to include it. And that was Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. It's my first book by him, one that was really highly acclaimed. Coming of age story, much akin to that by Stephen King or Ray Bradbury. I did really enjoy this one. It's a very engaging story, very adventurous story. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens in the book. Some really good characters. It's like really good book. I do expect to make a full video review of this sometime in the future. So look out for that. But I did end up giving this one 5 stars. I'm not going to include this in the running for Book of the Month since I did technically not finish it until July. But if I had finished it in time, it would probably have topped the list for me. But since I'm counting it out, I'm going to have to go for the Book of the Month in June of 2023. It's going to be Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. I had the most fun with this one. I've liked all the Red Rising books so far, and this one's one of the best. So it is easily the book of my month, not my book of the month. Yes. Heat exhaustion is getting there. So there we go. That is what I read in June. Let's go into July and discover what I'm going to read next. Since it is now past July 1st, I have started on 2 of these, so just a little insight there. The first one is Valor by John Gwynne. This is the second book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. I started it on the 1st, and I'm around 200 pages in, or about a third. And to be honest, I'm enjoying this one a little bit more than the first book. I'm not sure if it's due to anything different about the story or the writing, or just the way I'm reading it, as I am doing more updates as I read along with the book, rather than just doing chunks of chapters at a time. So that's making me reassess how I am following the book, so I think I've enjoyed it a little more because of that. But we'll see how it goes as it goes further on. It's still not going to be my favorite book or series, I suspect, but hopefully I can enjoy it enough to continue on with the other 2 books. The next one, the one that I started this morning, is Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. This is another read-along that I'm part of, taking place in July and August, so this is going to be one that I take my time with. I'm going to take it very slow and read it in the background along with other books. It's fairly long. My copy is a little under 1,000 pages. The text is pretty small, so it's going to be a leisurely read. Maybe not leisurely. It's going to be a long read. But I do expect to finish that sometime next month. The next one I have on my calendar is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. I received a copy of this book a few months ago for my birthday, and I decided to read it in July, so I'm going to do that. I also just recently bought a Kindle, and I checked out the ebook from the library for this book, so I'm going to be double dipping with this one just to get my Kindle use up, since I can't use it for either of the first two books that I'm reading. I want to get some use out of it, so I'm going to do that. Next up is going to be Dark Age, the next book in Red Rising. I'll be reading that next week, I think. And then the new release, Lightbringer, comes out later in the month. I may get to that on release date, or I might wait a little while to get to that. I haven't decided yet. But I'm looking forward to reading both of those very much. And that's going to be a whole chunk of my month right there. I had originally forgot that I signed up for Don Quixote, so I had a few other things planned for this month that I might have to put on the back burner. So here are some of those. The first one is The Stand by Stephen King. This is another chunky book that I was hoping to get to this month, but I may have to hold back on that. As it's one of the books I really want to get to for Stephen King, and I haven't read anything from him since The Tommyknockers, which was quite an experience a few months ago. Then the other books I might get to, but probably won't get to, one is The Prophet of Edan by Philip Chase, the second book in the Edan trilogy. I do really like this trilogy so far, and I do want to read it, but it reminds me a lot of Faithful and the Fallen. The two kind of remind me a lot of each other, and reading them at the same time seemed like a terrible idea to me, so I'm kind of holding off on this to see how much time I have at the end of the month. And if I do have enough time to fit that in, I might do it, but I don't think I will, because it's quite a long book as well. So I might have to wait on that one. I already mentioned Lightbringer, which I haven't decided yet if I'll get to. Then the last one is going to be A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. This is one classic that I was hoping to get to last month, but didn't. Not sure if I will this month either. Got to see how things go, and if I'm in the mood for another classic when I'm already reading through Don Quixote. So kind of play it by ear on that one, and really for a lot of them. So that's pretty much going to take care of this video, though. I don't have a lot else to say. I'm currently melting, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. If you do want to connect with me on social media, on Goodreads or Instagram or whatever, I've got links for those in the description. I've also got links to buy t-shirts in the description. Some of them are book related, some of them are not. But anyways, that's really all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and